previously in Dragon's Maw, during the party before Apocalypse, it was the party's job to approach Famine's two most significant subordinates, Scales and Locust, to see if they could do something about Famine's mind control over the Famine Gang, and also see if they could figure out if they had anything to do with Famine's schemes, if they would make good replacements if Famine was, say, removed, all that sort of stuff. During the session proper, we were only able to deal with Scales, the scale side of things, because Great Din was unable to go to the session, unfortunately, and it didn't seem like Flotsam would be able to handle that on our own. But now that, Great Din's back here, we're going to go back in time a little bit, and maybe see if that conversation with Locust bears any fruit. So...
Thank God, none of that Mr. Caffeine boobity going back in time. I know that meme is years old, but that guy still gets my goat.
Well, whatever floats your boat.
Floats your goat.
Floats your goat. Let's see. I'm trying to remember what was the order of activities that Powder Keg and Famine went on. Let's see. There was the dance-off, there was that knife accuracy game, there was some face ball, and then there was this concentration game.
I had a vague idea about when we could talk to Locust, if it would fit in with your plans.
Sure, and for the sake of anyone listening after the fact, Dahlia is a little sick, so excuse any sort of raspiness.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for, going through with this despite being sick.
Excuse me. I'm just sorry I can't make my voice work better. Anyways, I had the idea that possibly, Tibbs and Flotsam could catch up with Locust after the baseball game, as Famine and his entourage and Powder Keg are heading off to the magic competition. So potentially Flotsam could hang back with the foals, and Tibbs could get a head start talking to Locust on his own before Flotsam catches up with the two of them.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. So as the sort of entourage is moving from the faceball game to towards, basically clear on the other side of the camp, Flotsam, I guess you stay with the foals to kind of chat with them, to kind of debrief after the game. And Tibbs
is going to walk past sort of where Flotsam is, give a nod, like, in the general direction he's going, just make a signal that, he's going to go confront Locust now. And then he's going to attempt to find Locust amongst the entourage, and very, probably a little overacted, but drunkenly crash into her and tear her away from the rest of the group.
You just kind of barrel into her. She's definitely caught off guard. This sort of gray unicorn mare with orange body paint, and sort of this jet black mane. Very, very dark looking pony under the paint. She stumbles, and you end up off to the side as Famine's entourage continues on, mainly unaware as the rivalry between Famine and Powder Keg, flares up.
Okay, Tibbs is going to take Locust by the shoulders and go, "Can you believe that game? That was just, oh man, I don't even know the last time I saw a baseball game that exciting. It was,
yes,
something.
Very exciting," and she tries to move out of your grip and to continue following Famine.
Hey, I think, you're one of the, oh god, too much to drink. You're one of the bigwigs in Famine's group, right? You're
Locust.
Right.
She definitely does not look happy with this interruption, and she continues to try and, she resumes her efforts to try and get out of your grip.
Tibbs will release her, but he's going to follow right next to her, and go, look, as you can probably tell, I'm with the Pestilence gang. And I heard that you were the pony to go to if you want to talk about plants and animals, but I'm mostly more interested in the plant stuff right now. Is that right?
She hesitates significantly, and then she says, "I'm not available for questioning right now." Then she stops and she looks around as though from here where you're standing at this point in the party, it's a little hard to tell where Famine's group went.
Tibbs is gonna get in front of her to further block her view, and go, look, it's a real quick, simple sort of question. It's real important to me. You see, I deal medication, and poisons, naturally, being pestilence. But I heard, or I got something interesting. I need to know what it is. Do you think you could sort of help me out?
She looks past you a few times to try and, reorient her position, but then eventually just kind of slumps her shoulders and says, "Very well, I have a little time. What is it?"
Good. Thank you so much, mate. And Tibbs will reach into his bag and pull out the nightmare root.
The little tiny fragment you're able to...
Yeah.
That Pestilence gave you, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very black, kind of wood-like thing with a little bit of blue on it.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes a look at that, studies it quite closely, and almost under her breath you hear her say, Is that what I think it is?"
Tibbs will cock his head to the side and go, "Well, frankly, if I knew what it was, I wouldn't be coming to you now, would I?"
Fair enough. Well, I don't know where you would have gotten this, but that seems to be not just nightmare root, but recently burnt nightmare root. No, wait.
Tibbs is gonna...
She takes it from you and looks a little closer at it. No, my mistake. Not recently. No. She hands it back and says, "Why have you brought this to me?"
Well, it's like I said, it's a weird plant thing. I deal in poisons and medicines, and it seemed, I don't know, you can't ever just tell what plants do, so figured I'd bring it to the one pony in this camp who's smart enough to know what it is.
She says, "Well, wherever you got that, it was at one point burned a while ago, but it's not fresh. That, whatever that is, it was burned, I suppose, well before this conference was called together."
Tibbs will nod solemnly at that and then go, "That sounds ominous, but I perfectly honest don't know what that means."
Well, nightmare root is only effective if you inhale the fumes as it burns. So it needs to usually, you lace it into something that a pony is smoking, or you just, if you can gather up enough of it, you just lay it down in a pile and just burn it. Send the fumes into a group you don't like and watch them die over 3 days.
I see. That's interesting.
Yeah,
potent.
It's, from what I understand, it's laced with some aspect of the magic of the nightmares. It's not strictly a biological poison. It has a magical ability.
I see. The expression on Tibbs's face is going to hint that he doesn't actually understand that at all. He's still really trying to play up the drunk for some reason.
Well then, Locust just shakes her head and says, that's all the time I have. I don't have anything else, any other information about that.
Oh, well, you don't have to just run off like that, Sheila. It's just, You seem like a great party. Oh, hold on. I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine. She's great. She's got a little crocodile.
I'm also a very busy pony, so if you don't mind.
Busy with what? It's a party. Come on. He's going to grab her by the shoulder and drag her off. In Flotsam's general direction.
She tries to shake you off, but it seems like her heart's not totally in it, and eventually she relents and follows you.
Excellent. And while they're walking, Tibbs is going to go, so, I've heard tell of you. Obviously, you're Locust. You're big with the plants and the animals, and probably just as good as Famine. But
and you're the doctor, fractured tibia.
Some people call me that. Yeah.
Yes, I know you too.
Well, glad to see I have some sort of reputation left around here. Figured most ponies would just think I was dead or something.
Well,
anyway,
some ponies thought you were.
Well, suppose my information isn't completely out of the loop. Sorry, I had a bit too much. Anyway, that
doesn't seem like you had that much. Not from the smell of your breath and the coloration of your eyes.
Tibbs is going to smile at that and say, well, let's just say I never said I had too much of the usual stuff.
She just her face throughout remains utterly neutral.
Inside, Tibbs is much like Dally. I'm actually quite pleased with that. The fact that she is that astute. Anyway, I'm assuming by this point they're sort of nearing Flotsam and the others.
Yeah, you're getting back towards where the baseball game took place, where Flotsam is still hanging out with the other foals.
Mm-hmm. In that case, Tibbs is going to wave Flotsam over, yelling out, "Hey, Flotsam! Come on, I got someone I want to introduce you to, and to you introduce."
Okay. Flotsam will say goodbye to the other foals and maybe I'll see you guys tomorrow at Apocalypse.
Yeah, the foals all vigorously agree and then run off to mainly to tell their parents about the game they just had.
Flotsam does sort of hesitate a moment, smiling after them because she really has missed hanging out with other kids, and then she turns and flies over to where Locust and Tibbs are. Hi, Tibbs.
Hello there, little Sheila.
Flotsam.
Locust.
Tibbs!
Locust, I've heard so much about you. You're meant to be the go-to pony for plants and animals, right?
Somewhat. I spent many years out in the waste, so I've found a place in the gang where my skills are useful.
So Famine lets you do a lot of stuff with, farming and plants and looking after animals and training and stuff?
I'm one of Famine's advisors, yes.
What do you advise him on?
Well, more recently in sort of farming and food management, but also when we encounter any sort of animal threat in the wastes, I advise him on that as well.
That's great. He must listen to everything you have to say.
She doesn't really comment on that, but just sort of slightly nods.
Say, do you know a pony called Tough Love by any chance?
She nods.
Flotsam beams. She's good with animals too. She knows about crocodiles. Flotsam has, sorry?
And she says, yes, that would be one of the beastmasters I trained, yes.
You trained her?
Well, in some capacity.
That's amazing.
These skills are passed on to a good portion of the Famine gang, at least those who, show a talent and an interest in that field.
I wish I was better with animals. Craggy has been riding on her back. Well, not while she was playing baseball, obviously. He was stood off to the side for that, but he is riding on her back again at the moment. She kind of pulls him off and holds him up in front of her. This is Craggy. Craggy, this is Locust. I'm not really that good at communicating with him yet, but we get by.
Her neutral expression kind of softens a bit, seeing the crocodile. She sort of lays a hoof on the top of his head and kind of strokes along his back. Well, hello. And crocodile gives her a little coo.
Oh, he likes you.
I imagine there's quite a lot of animals in the way so you can do that with.
I've worked very hard to be able to do that.
It's impressive. It's very, very impressive.
It's not easy, and it's not as though I can mollify hellhounds in the blink of an eye, but I did spend some time in one of their dens.
Really? And they didn't kill you?
It took some effort. It helped that at first they had an incentive not to kill me. But that's a whole nother story.
What incentive?
Tibbs is going to sit down next to Flotsam, hug her close to his side and say, I think we're both agreed on this. This is a story we want to hear.
Flotsam nods eagerly.
Out
Deploying
of character,
big
damn you for
roundup.
putting me on the spot.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
You can just...
It was very dramatic and very off-screen.
It was very impressive and very off-screen. Hey, it can be a Tales from the Mall.
She thinks about it for a little while and says, these particular hellhounds were in their caves. In this particular cave, there was some radioactive equipment that was leaking, and they required a pony with magic to be able to fix the issue and remove it before it, poisoned them to death. And so that bought me some time and, circumstances where my leg was badly hurt, so I could not leave even after the job was done. So I managed to befriend one of them and sort of coexist with the rest. They didn't all like me, but I managed to work among them for a small time, at least until I was well enough to leave, and then I was promptly evicted. But
You still keep in touch with your hellhound friend?
well, that's not something I go around telling ponies, that I have a hellhound friend, obviously.
No, sure.
They prefer my friend is okay with telling the story, but not with divulging any details of their, home.
Of course. Flotsam is looking genuinely awed by this. Very, very impressed.
Yes,
So,
the Ma and the Four Horses, as I understand, over the past many years, they've worked very hard to gather up the best of the best, the most skilled of survivors.
so did they recruit you?
Yes, I was recruited by Famine.
How do you feel about that? I mean...
It's been a wonderful opportunity, she says almost immediately.
Really?
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong, but...
Tibbs is going to squeeze Flotsam a little bit and kind of shake his head.
Well, if you say so. Famine must be a really great leader then, huh?
Of course.
She glances to Tibbs.
Tibbs is going to sort of frown and then shake his head and say, enough about the big bosses. I mean, they'll get their due tomorrow. Let's talk about the unappreciated ponies. Let's hear some more about you.
I think I've said more than enough. I really should be getting back to Famine.
Oh,
it's been nice to meet you and your friend.
Wait,
Flotsam. But
Locust?
What is it?
You might not be allowed to say anything, but it's just talking about Famine. We're kind of worried about him.
She really looks conflicted now, but she says, worried?
Flotsam looks incredibly thoughtful for a moment, glances to Tibbs, as if kind of wondering if she should say what she's going to say, then looks back at Locust. You have the interest of the four horses. You want what's best for all of the four horses gangs, right?
Her inner conflict turns to sort of suppressed suspicion.
Someone wants us to think that Famine is making a play for taking out death and pestilence.
That is absolutely insane.
I know, but someone wants us to think that, and I want to know why.
Noted. Where have you been hearing this? Where's the leak been?
What leak?
Tibbs is going to pull the nightmare root out of his bag and wave it in front of her again.
Tibbs, I haven't told you this yet, but I had heard, and I'm really sorry, but I can't remember the source, but I had heard that there are some raiders from the Famine gang, but, shared with the executive, and they were sent to the Charred Grove, which I understand is where you can get something called nightmare root from. I don't know much about what it does, but it sounds kind of dangerous.
Well, I don't know anything about any of that.
But that's just the thing. They weren't sent to collect anything. They were just seen there.
Again, I don't know a thing about that. Famine doesn't hand out assignments to all of his ponies equally, and then she covers her mouth very quickly.
What do you mean by that?
Nothing. I should go.
What are you scared of, Locust?
She turns around and starts to walk away.
Tibbs will get up and he will approach Locust and sort of pull her to a stop. And he's gonna say, "It's just for a moment, Sheila. Calm down." And he will open up his bag, pull out he will pull out his only remaining container of Party Time Mentals, take out 2, and just hand them to her, and say, for any time you feel like clearing your head. All right?
She looks down at the pills, up at you, down at the pills again, and just kind of stares at them for a few seconds. Then, almost in an instant, you find the pills disappear from your hoof as she grabs them with her telekinesis and pops them immediately. Her horn continues to glow as she swallows and lets the drug course through her system, and her eyes kind of flash briefly, and then she looks very sharply at you two and says, "Follow me, quick."
Flotsam nods and puts Craggy back on her back and starts flying.
Tibbs will follow along.
At a brisk pace, she leads you off, not west, but more to the south, where the doctor and marketplace tents meet the armories, and she picks one of the offices where one of the doctors is set up, and looks inside and to the sole doctor inside and says, "By order of Famine, I need to use this shack for a second." And the doctor kind of protests at this.
Tibbs will follow shortly behind and say, "You heard the lady, get out!"
The doctor just kind of slack-jawed, just kind of looks at you, back to her, back to you, and then clears out. And as soon as he's gone and you're all inside, Locust just shuts the door and looks at you and says, "Thanks for the Mentals. This spell gets harder to pull off every single time, but I should have a few minutes like this."
You know he's mind controlling you then.
I'm currently doing a bit of a soft counter. Gives me some will back, and he's not the wiser, but it doesn't last forever.
We're gonna try and get you all free, okay? But we're gonna need help.
Okay, so the other 4 horses are starting to get aware of this. They're starting to do something.
Less starting to be aware and more already aware, and we're working on it.
Okay.
Locust, did you know about the scouts going to Nightmare Grove and the raid to the Charred Grove?
I genuinely was not told. As I said, as I slipped out there, Famine gives out his jobs, his more secret jobs and orders piecemeal. Not everyone is given the whole picture.
I guess that makes sense. What do you know?
I was given a different operation of a similar nature, and that was to leak to the cult that something of particular importance to the Death Tribe was stored somewhere along the southern wall.
Flotsam kicks a table. Damn it!
But I was also given express instructions not to give them false information about where it could be found. I gave them the impression that it was buried underground, not necessarily in any sort of cache or what would be protecting it. It seemed the intention was to just make it seem like someone was on the scent.
This is really weird. You leak information so that it looks like the cult is going to be able to find something that will hurt Death. And Scales... Scales has given orders to send raiders to the Charred Grove to look like they're collecting Nightmare Root, but not actually collect any.
And then Death starts freaking out. Pestilence gets the impression, I'm guessing, that he's been poisoned. What gives him that impression? She looks at Tibbs in particular. I assume that you're tapped into that. What makes him think so?
That little bit of Nightmare Root I was showing to you earlier, I pulled that was pulled straight from his room.
But where did it come from if it wasn't harvested recently? Or was it harvested?
It wasn't burned recently either.
It wasn't?
I know Pestilence has his herbs and whatnot, but even if that was snuck into his abode, that hadn't been burned recently.
It's been planted there to make it look like he's showing the symptoms.
Has he had nightmares?
He's had one nightmare, but I get the distinct feeling that if what you said is true, it was just
Famine
a
has
nightmare.
Control powers. He could have given Pestilence a nightmare without him having to experience Nightmare Root. It might not be poisoning.
And that would be direct negative action against one of his brothers.
So he's trying.
Still not proof. I don't know. I don't know much about the Pestilence plan. I'm afraid
That's fine.
And come the next 20 minutes, I won't even be on your side long enough to testify of anything.
It's okay. Fine. We'll figure something out. But
any other info you can give us?
Like about Conquest, he hasn't been threatened yet.
As far as I know, and again, it's all been piecemeal, but it doesn't seem like Famine doesn't really seem to see Conquest as much of a threat.
Conquest is new meat. As far as he's concerned, it's putting up a kid against a warrior.
And if somehow Famine can with these bluffs, get Death and Pestilence on his side, then they can pressure Conquest, is my take on it.
So, what it sounds like to me is that Famine is trying to make it look like he has control. He's trying to make Death and Pestilence believe that he can kill them anytime he wants, but he's not actually taking steps to do it, because as soon as he does, the truce is over. We can kill him, but until he does something actually harmful, we can't.
Actually harmful and provable.
What he has been doing is putting his entire gang under mind control. That's got to be some kind of against the rules.
When did that start, if you know?
A little while after we made contact with the executive, and after our first dealing with him, Famine started spending a lot more time with the executive and at the Red Scale Cathedral.
So that explains his boost in magic anyway. I think we already suspected that much.
There's an element of this that doesn't make sense to me. If these are bluffs, eventually the other two are going to... despite any despite their loyalty, as much as they might not want to indict their longtime brother, eventually they're going to realize that Famine is the traitor, and perhaps even without proof, there's going to be a reckoning.
But before that happens, Flotsam goes white. He's distracting them. He's planning something. She glances between the two of them. Does this sound crazy? I mean, he's got them wrong-footed, worrying that their lives are in danger, and not to mention Conquest is on the back foot as well, because he's worried that he's going to be next. And
Famine's making them worried about the inside when they should be worried about the outside, is what I'm hearing.
The executive, all the raiders.
It's not a threat from outside. There's been no sort of mobilization. After all, Famine and the executive, they still want the Four Horses tribes because of the power they represent. And yes, maybe it was delegated to someone else, but I've gotten no indication that there's supposed to be any sort of attack.
Well, that's a relief anyway,
sort of siege or anything. And especially after Death's personal display over at Skyfall, I don't know if even the executive would be that brazen right now.
So, why does he want them on the back foot?
Because a mind that's distracted by a lot of other things can be probably
manipulated
much more easily.
Oh god, his mind control. Is that what we're thinking?
Is he weakening their wills by distracting them and making them worry about possible death?
And if I'm right about Pestilence's nightmare, then Famine is already worming his way into at least one of their minds.
Tibbs is very furious. Tibbs's teeth are ground together right now. He is extremely tense and looks like he might just break something.
We can't let this happen.
Locust doesn't look a whole lot better, but she also looks very, very weary, despite having taken, 2 party time mentals. She just looks like she's been carrying a heavy weight for a very long time.
We won't let this happen. Flotsam turns with new determination to Locust. We're going to find a way to break his mind control and make sure he can't take over anyone else. Will you remember any of this when you go back under?
It will always be there under the surface. To some extent we are aware when this spell is upon us, but it also...
Will he be able to see any of this? Or get any of this out of you?
No, it's not mind reading. It's pure control. It is about using one's... It's less about the mind and more about the will, this particular spell.
Then we should probably get you back to him before
he suspects.
Before he becomes suspicious.
Before he suspects something, and before you have to tell him the absolute truth.
Yeah. Before he asks me what I've done and where I've been, but I've done this a couple of times before, but the spell always gets stronger after each time I break it. I needed those PTMs to make this happen.
Good thinking, Tibbs.
And I'm gonna have one hell of a crash after this.
I'm sorry about that, but we are not leaving you to him, okay? We're going to find a way to get rid of him.
Famine needs to go. It's time. And especially if this plan of his, it's going to go into effect tomorrow. Apocalypse starts tomorrow.
Oh gosh. Listen, one of the reasons that we sought you out, we heard that both you and Scales might be good, replacements if we do get rid of Famine, which...
She'd provide kind of widen at that. To take over the Famine gang?
Well, maybe with Scales, between the two of you.
Oh, but...
You should have enough strength and experience.
I suppose you already considered that one of us might not be enough. That makes me feel a little better.
We hadn't done much of the consideration. This word comes from Death himself, so I'd take extra pride in that.
You mean... Sorry, out of character. You mean Conquest.
Alright. Conquest was... Sorry, I don't know why I said pride. Conquest.
You said
Tibbs said Conquest.
You said death.
I don't know why I said that. I meant
too many
Conquest.
words. But yeah, Flotsam will say, my friend talked to Scales, and Scales seemed more comfortable about the idea of taking over the gang with you than by himself.
Scales is better with the ponies than I am.
But you have all the knowledge that the Famine gang needs to survive. Plus, you'll live longer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good strategy. Hard to disagree with that, and some pony needs to step up, especially if we do decide to go to war with the executive after this.
Given how strongly you've been fighting against his mind control, I'd say you've got all the resources you need to be able to step up. Listen, I know it's going to be bad the next day or so, but it's going to be okay eventually. Flotsam kind of tentatively approaches for a hug, but kind of hovers in case Locust isn't comfortable with that.
Locust, sensing that that's what you want, goes for a quick hug. Nothing too tight, but just a quick little embrace.
Thank you for talking to us.
It's nice. The last few times I was able to break this, I was alone. I was just happy to be able to have my own thoughts again, but I wasn't able to speak with any pony else about this.
Well, don't worry. After tomorrow, that shouldn't be a problem.
It happens tomorrow, then?
It happens tomorrow.
All right. I can take one more night of this. It's been like this for a few months anyhow. All right. I'd better get going.
Tibbs nods, salutes her, and opens the door for her.
Flotsam gets Craggy to wave.
Locust, at that, she looks back and kind of smirks a little bit, and then heads out the door. After which the pestilence doctor, it turns out he was kind of waiting just outside, and kind of looks in sheepishly, as though he might have overheard the whole thing.
You can have your shack back now, mate.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you for letting us borrow it.
I'm gonna be training a lot of ponies tomorrow, aren't
I? Hopefully no, because the only pony we want to kill is, you heard the words there. Kill! We don't want him being fixed.
I'm just gonna ready clean my tools just in case.
That's probably a good idea. You don't like Famine either, right?
Oh, No, I'm not getting into this conversation. No, I'm not getting into... You guys deal with the trees and have fun with that. I'm just gonna... And he shuts the door.
He's not gonna tell anyone, right, Tibbs?
Tibbs just actually starts laughing at this. I don't think you're gonna have to worry about that, Flotsam.
Flotsam smiles. Hey, you got my name right.
Tibbs is going to bust out another fit of laughing at that.
Flotsam kind of playfully punches him on the arm. You did good, huh? I got a good feeling about her.
Same here.
Thank
She'll be
you.
alright.
I hope so.
Alright, well, suppose we should get back to the others, eh?
Yeah. See how Powder's doing. I hope he I know it doesn't matter too much, but I really hope he beats Famine.
Tibbs is gonna just kind of shrug at that. Because, frankly, he don't give a fuck.
I do... If you don't mind me out of character, I do have a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to report to your boss?
Oh, right. Tibbs should probably do that.
Tibbs has had too much to drink.
No, Tibbs hasn't had anything.
Tibbs is stone sober right now.
I know, and yet he still had too much to drink somehow.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think it's just like... I don't know, I think it's just a general sense of relief after this, 3 super intense days of, unsure of what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah,
all right.
this...
Kind of like how the session on Sunday has been building up for 4 weeks, and so it's ready to explode. And it's just going to be sheer relief when it's done.
I'm glad to hear that the build-up has been effective, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but yes, do you want to...
Yeah, Tibbs will definitely see if he can track down Pestilence. He'll turn to Flotsam and say, you go and try and catch up with the others. I'm going to go talk to my boss.
Roger that, Doctor. She salutes and flies off to find Xencarn.
All right. And so, you managed to find, as the evening of partying, the sun sets and, that is to say, fully sets and, night falls on Apocalypse, you find Pestilence where he has mostly been the entire stay, which is back in his command tent.
Mm-hmm. Tibbs will pull out the little bit of nightmare root that he was given earlier and just kind of toss it to the ground in a haphazard fashion. I conversed with Locust of the Famine gang. She's identified this as nightmare root, as we suspected. It was not burned recently, nor was it collected recently.
Pestilence takes a deep, stuttering breath.
That means your nightmare has another source.
Upon you with mental magic, reaching into my mind to manipulate me.
That's what I was thinking too. We've also confirmed that Famine has been controlling most of his gang through mental magic. That
he just closes his eyes and lowers his head, shaking. Go on.
Simply put, these scare tactics, these bluffs, are all just to, from what we've gathered, from the information we've received and discovered, it seems that this is all just a ploy to get at your minds. If he can't convince you to join, which obviously he didn't seem very likely to begin with, he'll make you see things his way.
And that goes for both you and Death.
And with us under control, he can use us to sway Conquest as well.
And with you under his control, the deal with
the deal with the executive goes through, and he controls the whole 4 horses.
And eventually takes on the executive himself, I would imagine. But that's just...
Or the executive wins, and he gets us.
Either way.
Either way.
I believe it's not my place to say so, but I believe that tomorrow I will be partaking in the execution of one of the 4 horsemen.
Yes. I'm going to have another nightmare tonight, aren't I?
It's possible, sir. It's very much a possibility.
This informant of yours, she's not going to get famine-wise of this information?
We managed to break her out of the mind control magic. Actually, she broke herself out, I should say, with help from some party time mentals I provided.
Fair enough. I see.
She's a very resourceful pony. Definitely someone to look at as a replacement.
Locust, huh?
Locust, yes.
And I understand this was Conquest has had his hoof in this operation of yours.
That is correct, sir. As I told him, he is, and as I will now tell you, he is definitely the right pony for the job.
Death was right once again. He kind of smiles at that. Famine. A pony is your brother for decades. And then the first chance he gets comes up with the most convoluted plan.
I don't know, sir. Frankly, I've seen some more convoluted ones from this little group you have me traveling with.
Fair enough. Very well, then. My mind is under attack. Then I will do my best to steel myself for tomorrow. I'll see if I can speak with Death tonight. Although I don't know if either of us has that much experience warding off mental magic. And these threats have shaken us.
Well, if it's any consolation, the informant has also stated that while information was spread, there's not enough between the two parties to actually harm either of you at the moment.
So we are safe.
For the moment.
Death is safe. I am safe.
For the moment, sir. But so long as Famine lives, I doubt that's going to continue.
It was all one grand bluff. Just to weaken our minds, so he could use his newfound power to control us. I'm convinced. then we can be confident without a doubt that he'll make his play tomorrow. That he'll show his hoof, and then he dies. He
Tibbs
he
nods.
does not survive apocalypse.
Tibbs nods. Is there anything else I can do for you this evening, sir?
Oh. Can you whip up... I've forgotten the name, but that one mixture to help a pony sleep peacefully.
Absolutely, sir.
I could use that tonight. Been a long time since I've needed one, but I think tonight I will take one of your remedies for once.
Happy to help, sir.
Usually it's my body that's on the defense. Perhaps I should spend more time testing my mind.
Perhaps, sir, but it's no sense worrying about what you've done. Nothing you could have done.
Tomorrow will be a sad day. Famine was a brother to us once. As far as I'm concerned, that brother is dead now, but he was a brother once. But sometimes in the wasteland, brother turns against brother.
Tibbs will nod and while he's been talking, he's been preparing the mixture that Pestilence asked for. I'm assuming I can take a 20 on that, right?
Yeah, you can take your time on that.
And then he will, when it's finished, he'll leave a small bottled container of it near Pestilence's side.
Thank you, Tibia.
You're welcome, sir.
Through all of this, through everything I've asked you, you've been absolutely dependable. I hope that doesn't go unappreciated.
It hasn't, sir. Thank you.
Very well. I bid you good night.
Good night, sir. Pleasant dreams.
He kind of smiles at that and says, indeed. Although his smile definitely is very wry.
And I suppose with that, Tibbs will leave the tent and head back to the others.
Which, at that point, reconnects back to the original session, and therefore, this retroactive mini-session comes to a close.
Hooray!
Without paradoxes, hooray!
Yeah, so, and as a reminder, at the end of the last session, Dr. Javolt managed with his Spelljactor Destiny talent through scales to affect the blanket mind control spell affecting the entire common Famine gang, setting it to slowly and invisibly deteriorate, breaking 10 minutes after the apocalypse meeting starts.
And lots of joy. This is now even better in retrospect.
I suppose I should. This has been Fallout is Dragon.
Join us next week.
Join us next week when Powder decides to blow up some Famine face.
Some Famine face.
No, I called dibs.
Sorry.
You can do it too.
I was gonna stuff a face full with C4.
Like I keep saying, get in line.
Everyone wants a piece of Famine. Preferably all over the goddamn wasteland.
A piece over here, a piece over there.
One piece dangling from the Maw Cathedral or whatever it's called.
The Red Scale Cathedral, yes.
Yeah, the Red Scale Cathedral.
Can't do commemorative pieces of Famine here.
Limited time only.
Oh, goodness.
Get them before they're gone.